You're listening to the Boxing Breakdown Report with resident Wager Talk handicapper Kevin Dolan. Get all your latest pro boxing tips at the SportsWolf83 on Twitter.
What's happening, boxing bettors? Welcome into this another episode of the Boxing Breakdown Report with me, your host Kevin Dolan, where each and every week we'll give our thoughts on that weekend's most high-profile fights and, more importantly, the best value bets you made in each one. So let's get into this week. Obviously, the biggest fight in the card is going to be the heavyweight clash, the rematch between Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz Jr. The first fight was great. We seen that back in June. Mainly because obviously what happened, it was going to be Joshua's coming out party. It was his American debut. Andy Ruiz completely ruined the show for him, ruined the script, tore it up. Ruiz came in as a late game replacement for Jarrell Miller, who was meant to be the initial opponent for Anthony Joshua's debut in America. So yeah, I mean, great fight, and it leads a lot of unanswered questions going into this fight. We'll just briefly tap on them because, you know, Anthony Joshua said after the first fight, leading up to this fight, look, it was a punch from the gods, in quotation marks. It was the punch that after Joshua caught him and put Ruiz down for the first time in his career, it was the punch that caught Joshua on the back of the head, completely discombobulated him. He looked mini concussed, basically, tried to survive for another 3 rounds or so before Ruiz finally got the finish, putting him down multiple times in the process. So leading into this fight, you know, there seems to be 2 schools of thought. Maybe it just really was a random punch that Joshua was making it out to be. Or maybe, on the other side, Ruiz has the wrong style matchup for Joshua. And there's also, leading into this, like, some sub-questions. A lot of people seen the face-off that they recently did on Sky with Johnny Nelson, where some of Joshua's answers, his body language, he didn't look that confident. He was coming out with quotes like, you know, if I win. So a lot of people are looking at that thinking, you know, maybe his confidence is shook. Maybe he's not, you know, as mentally strong as people were thinking beforehand. And on the Andy Ruiz side, I kind of half laughed because when Johnny Nelson said, you know, how has winning the World Heavyweight title changed you? And Ruiz kind of folded his arms and he's just dripping in ice. He's got all the jewellery. And he said, oh, it hasn't changed me at all. So that was quite comical because obviously now that he's a multi-millionaire, we'll see if the hunger's still there. Now, it seems to be because both fighters going into this have done a lot of weight loss. They both look a lot slimmer. Joshua, it'll be interesting to see how him and Rob McCracken come up with a plan for this rematch. On the flip side, it'll be very interesting to see. We already know Ruiz has the much faster hands going into this fight, but it'll be interesting to see how his punch resistance, with the amount of weight loss that he's had. We don't know how much weight loss is going to be, maybe 10, 15, 20 pounds, but, you know, it'll be interesting to see if his punch resistance holds up. So, you know, it's just a great fight because we just don't know. Was Ruiz lucky? Is it a bad style matchup? Now, listen, we've got our own read in this fight. We have a 4% play over at Wager Talk and grab that for $9. This is only our third 4% release of the year. We're already 2-0 in the year. We had a 4% play on Manny Pacquiao back in July, plus 125. That cashed. And we followed it up with a 4% winner on Alexander Povetkin at the back end of August. That was a 4% winner too. So we're 2-0 for the year. We expected to be 3-0. We really like the value in this heavyweight clash. So yeah, you can head on over to Wager Talk, grab that for $9. Going into the undercard of this fight, it's one of the strongest undercards for heavyweight title fights we've seen in a while, or just in general fights. There's some great talents on this, great talents. So Filip Hrgović is fighting Eric Molina. We expect that to be a routine win for Filip Hrgović. Hrgović is 9-0, but he's been fast-tracked. He's fought some very good fighters for a 9-0 fighter. He beat Amir Mansour, he beat Kevin Johnson, took care of Mario Heredity in their last fight. And I really think Molina's at the back end of his career. Look, one of his career highlights happened 5 years ago. He really badly hurt Deontay Wilder in the 3rd round. Hit him with some massive shots. Deontay Wilder was staggering. He was really hurt. Wilder eventually came back, took care of business. I think it was around round 6 or round 7. So, you know, that's nearly 5 years ago. Wilder's obviously went from strength to strength since then. And Molina, you could argue he's regressed. Anthony Joshua demolished him. And I really think Hrgovic might finish his career this time round. I think Hrgovic is going to stop him. Unbettable at the current line, but nonetheless, I expect Hrgovic to win. Dillian Whyte's also facing Mariusz Wach. Look, if you haven't seen Mariusz Wach, if you go back to the 90s, The Adventures of Batman and Robin, if anyone's seen that cartoon, that is Mariusz Wach. He's got a chin like a brick. He looks the part. But I expect Whyte to win. The only thing that's kind of question marks about this fight is the fact that, look, Whyte's got that looming suspension hanging over him from the Oscar Rivas fight. And also in recent videos of his training sessions, he seems to have actually put on a little weight. So it's definitely a fight to stay away from. I wouldn't even put it in a parlay bet because just don't know what's going to happen there. I do expect him to beat, Mariusz Wach, though. Mariusz Wach's slow. Even made Jarrell Miller look pretty fast in their recent fight. The one play that we do have on the undercard of this fight is we have a 3% play on Michael Hunter minus 156. Now Michael Hunter, he's had a couple of fights at heavyweight, but he used to be down at cruiserweight. Great fighter. He's got a lot of movement. He's got a lot of versatility. He recently beat Martin Bakole. Now I like Martin Bakole. I think Martin Bakole is a decent heavyweight. Like he's got a lot of movement, got a lot of range and power. And Hunter stopped him. Took a lot of punches to stop him. Hunter definitely doesn't have a lot of power, but he rocked Bakole, put him up against the ropes. The referee had to step in to save him. I just think his movement. Look, we're kind of going away from where we were in August when we had a 4% play on Alexander Povetkin. Povetkin looked extremely slow, and in my opinion, Yuri Fury almost left the fight in the table. Yuri Fury's volume and punch output was so slow in that fight. He really, if he had upped it, could have taken care of Alexander Povetkin, got the points win. But he just didn't throw enough punches in that fight. Povetkin's the type of fighter, and this is how I see this fight going. Povetkin's the type of fighter where if he'll give any heavyweight trouble for at least 3 rounds. We've seen him give Joshua trouble in the first round of their fight, and he looked good against Yuri Fury for a lot of the early rounds too, but he slowed so much. His style doesn't suit an older fighter. Fighters like Vladimir Klitschko can kind of mask it by the way they fight, just jabbing, staying out of range, and not looking to engage. But a fighter who fights like Povetkin, who relies on movement to get inside, kind of like a white Mike Tyson, to get in range and look to work you from the inside. His style doesn't suit age. He's slowed down so much in recent years, and I like Hunter in this fight. I think it's Hunter's coming out party, and I think Alexander Povetkin's on the slide. Look, Hunter's only loss has been to Alexander Usyk, and that's no bad loss because you could argue Alexander Usyk is the pound for pound number 1 fighter on the planet. You could make that case. He's definitely pound for pound top 3. And the fact that it was a good fight, he was competitive in that fight. So, yeah, I think he takes care of Povetkin in this one. Maybe not knock him out, but I definitely think it's a wide points decision. That's it for this card. And then we go over to Brooklyn. That's going to be their Jamal Charlo Dennis Hogan fight. Interesting fight. We're not going to get involved in the main fight simply because, look, a lot of people thought Hogan beat Jaime Munguia last time out. This is his chance for a second crack at the cherry. And to be honest, ever since Charlo beat Julian Williams, he hasn't looked good. Hugo Centeno Jr., these kind of fighters, he actually hasn't upped his competition. And you would argue, at least in my eyes, if he fought J-Rock again in a rematch, you'd definitely favour J-Rock. You'd favour Williams to beat him in that rematch. I don't think Charlo's looked overly impressive. Now, he might take care of Dennis Hogan here. Again, I wouldn't get involved in either side, just because Dennis Hogan looked, pretty decent against Jaime Munguia last time out. The play that we do have on the Brooklyn card is going to be Matt Korobov. We have a 3% play on Matt Korobov. Listen, Matt Korobov, he's a technician. His losses, like he lost to Charlo, who's fighting on the main fight. But it was a horrible decision. Thought Korobov beat him, simply put. So, and his other loss was against Andy Lee back in the day. Now, Andy Lee had Deontay Wilder type power where if he hit you, we've seen what he did to John Jackson. If he hit you right, you crumpled, you were gone. There's very few fighters with that kind of power. You talk about Deontay Wilder, you talk about David Lemieux, and Andy Lee was in that bracket where it wasn't just, heavy hands, it was, you crumpled to the ground if he connected right. Korobov was winning a lot of the early rounds. Andy Lee caught him, and he was on chicken legs from that point on. So, I think Korobov, if anyone's looking at his recent resume, they'll see, a couple of L's to Lee and Charlo. They'll see a draw in his last fight out. Again, really bad decision. Matt Korobov's been really hard done by if you look on the X's and O's of it. But to be simply put, I don't think he should be an underdog to Chris Eubank. Look, Chris Eubank struggles against technicians. He looks absolutely fantastic with his power when he's fighting more stationary targets, like Avni Yildirim or Spike O'Sullivan. Guys who come to Chris Eubank and look to exchange punches. He looks phenomenal. He'll blow you out with a big uppercut. You'll be on the ground. But that's not Matt Korobov. Matt Korobov, he's 36. He's an old-time vet. And he's crafty in the ring. Great amateur record. So I think Eubank's really going to struggle here. I don't think Korobov's going to give him the ability to get into a shootout. And if that's the case, he might well wear Chris Eubank down in this. Look, at the end of the day, George Groves beat Chris Eubank with one hand. So, Chris Eubank doesn't look great against technicians. Billy Joe Saunders, another technician, ran rings around him for 6 rounds. The only thing that saved Chris Eubank in their fight years ago was that Billy Joe Saunders' stamina was so bad that eventually Chris Eubank caught him up in the later, made it more competitive, and by the end of it was a close decision. But for the first 6 rounds while Saunders was fit, the fight wasn't competitive at all. So I think you're getting plus 200 on Matt Korobov. I think that's a great play. Just because I don't know why Korobov keeps getting really bad decisions against him, but nonetheless, he's got the tool set, he's got the skill set to beat Chris Eubank in this. And I think he wins. So, yeah, basically, like as we said, you can head on over to Wager Talk, grab the $9 play on the Joshua Ruiz fight, 4% play on that, and or 2-3% plays. Take Michael Hunter minus 156. To beat Alexander Povetkin on the Saudi Arabia card. And on the Brooklyn card, we like a 3% play on Matt Korobov plus 200. So, yeah, definitely get on both of them plays. We like them players a lot. And that should wrap things up for this episode. As always, leave your comments before. Look forward to reading them. And you can follow me over at Wager Talk or on Twitter at the SportsWolf83. We'll be back next week for the New York City card that's going to be headlined by Terence Crawford and Kavaluskis. Should be a good card then. So until then, good luck on all your bets as always, and Slán Abhaile.